Cool. Kia ora koutou, we're Brad and Kate, and we're here to talk about our journey when tasked with building a new website and how relationship building was vital to the product's success. We've had a baptism by fire. We were both new to our roles and didn't really have too much experience in that, and we also came from different backgrounds, so that was also a big challenge. I hadn't worked in a multidisciplinary team with a dedicated product owner before, and Kate had never worked with a UX designer, which meant we both needed to quickly figure out how each other worked. And cool. There's been a fair number of learnings along our journey, but we've tried to trim these down to 3 key points, which we think will help you guys in your own journeys. And let me start by saying this is nothing groundbreaking or new. It's just pretty much a set of principles that we held ourselves to, so don't expect anything that's like super crazy out there. And yeah, there's no secret formula to getting a successful product or having great team communication or getting good outcomes for your customers. It's just a simple set of principles that we held ourselves to set ourselves up with the foundations that we needed to get the project done.
Awesome. Kia ora koutou, ko Kate Tokuingoa. And I started as a product owner for ACC's digital team with no previous technology delivery experience. I'd done the Agile course and I was officially certified, but I walked into the role feeling nothing short of lost and underprepared. But drawing on my experience, I knew that to get a team working well together, you needed to be united in the vision and with each other. So I learned quickly that the role of the UX designer was one that I needed to be closely aligned with. Brad and I needed to have a strong partnership for me to learn the ins and outs of user-centered design and ensure that it was calling the shots. Just having some slide issues here. Yes. I also needed ruthless honesty from Brad. He was my pulse check for when the customer experience was on or off track. But how do you create that partnership? So basically, it came down to me setting the vision and then just getting the hell out of the way. If I'm hovering over him critiquing his decisions all the time, I run the risk of putting him into a state of paralysis, or even worse, just straight up hating his job. So to all the product owners out there, and I don't know if there's many, but hey, I'm talking to you if you're listening, my advice is to back off. You're biased from the pressure of your stakeholders and sticking to your deliverables. So if your designer's running behind on designs, the answer is not to put pressure on them to go faster or to have the talk. Your job is to take the hit and work smarter next time, so that the person whose job it is to focus solely on the customer experience has the time and space to do just that. An example of this was the beginning of our project. The business told me that everything that needed building was top priority and had high expectations on how much user testing needed to be done. So I learned a few UX terms, and I found myself sitting with Brad one day going, right, so what we need to do is guerrilla test the old website, then we need to card sort the information architecture internally and then externally, then we need to tree jack, and then we need to do in-depth user testing. Oh, and yeah. The list went on, and for a second there we did try and do everything. But thankfully, Brad kept me in the loop and made me realise how unrealistic I was being and where the true value of my role was, to set clear expectations on what's actually possible. Thanks to psychological safety, Brad was able to be honest with me, and we figured out our working styles together and rhythm really quickly. Relationship building across the team was just the same. I put my focus into normalising psychological safety. In principle, this is simple. Allow everybody to openly challenge the status quo without ridicule, work through disagreements, and always have each other's backs. But for this to be embedded, it needs to be reinforced through repetitive action and demonstrated through example. If I expected my team to adopt this mantra, I needed to provide a safe environment to do so and truly believe that whether or not I'm successful is really not up to me. We were very lucky though. The team that we stepped into were very experienced and well-established, a well-established delivery team. They needed little guidance on the vision, and they were grounded in what was important, building for the customer. Next up was getting our stakeholders into the same way of thinking. They challenged us, and they asked, why build a beta website? delivering something in what looks to be draft mode felt very risky to our stakeholders. They wanted a shiny new website that was turned on to the public, that was looking perfect, just like last time. And who are we to say otherwise? So, for the good of our customers, we needed to build trust with them. And you don't do that by just saying, trust me. Through trial and error, I found some things that were quite useful. Being genuine in your approach with people. Become curious about who they are and what makes them tick. What are their drivers and what are their fears? Let them know those things about you as well. You can be upfront about what scares you. People value that. Also, get comfortable with being wrong and stay consistent in your approach, especially when you hit shaky ground. Establishing this level of trust means that issues will be aired early and common ground can be found so that everybody feels supported to move forward.
As a designer, relationships are a necessity. Not only are you designing for a product that reaches a community, but you need to create a design that your team consumes. They need to be accurately interpreted for a team to flow smoothly and for the work to go as planned. Connecting with your developers can help you figure out how they work, how they like designs presented, and how you can keep that communication loop open. This can help to ensure work is efficient, done to a high standard, and removes as many of those speed bumps as possible. You're going to connect with the developers more closely than the product owner will as you work a lot tighter with them. As such, you can help act as that communication point between the two and keep your finger on the pulse of the product. With that relationship and increased communication, it allows you to pull together to solve issues without having to book in those big meetings. Just having those one-on-one connections to quickly jump through a problem is a lot more productive than having everyone gathered in a meeting for 1 to 2 hours. It also breaks down that wall of people not stepping outside of their role. Yes, everyone is an expert in their own field, but people see stuff from different perspectives, so something that you may pick up or may miss, other people will pick up and have different perspectives on it, so encourage that and let that conversation happen. This allows for far more constructive conversations about solutions that may not be working the way that you expected them to, and as a consequence, a safer environment is created where people can push back on ideas that they think could have been solved in a different way without hurting people's feelings or stepping on each other's toes. And hey, at the end of the day, if you don't get anything else from this relationship, you'll at least pick up on some useful coding tips or terminology to help you on your way.
So Brad's leading us into our second point that we wanted to cover, and that's the importance of nurturing a flat hierarchy mindset. So this in practice looks like setting the goal and then leaving the team to decide how we get there. It means that everyone has equal say, which is empowering and encourages autonomy. Agile principles themselves promote this thinking and self-managing teams, but it takes a considered effort to turn that into a reality. So it's important to check yourself and make sure that you're stepping back as much as possible to allow the team to lead the way. For example, building a beta website. Where do you start? Or what's the best way to build a feedback mechanism? Don't think it's a good idea? Change it. All egos to be left at the door with no one holding the trump card. Our customer's voice being the ultimate decider for our work. Our stakeholders experience this reality too, and when debating next steps, we promoted an environment of fairness and respect. This is critical so that when everyone gets their blinkers on, which always happens, everyone can call each other out on their BS. This mindset is by no means easy. For it to work, people need to get stuck in to help. All parties need to be committed to swarming on a problem, and with everybody involved, they can visualise the solution to help resolve things if the problem were to come around again, and it gives people a sense of accountability. A common phrase that we would hear in our team was, yes, but is that what's important to the customer, or are we making assumptions? On the flip side though, you can take this principle too far and end up in circles where no decisions are made. So it's important to know when to draw a line in the sand. An example of this was a design draft that came up for debate yet again after development had started, and I had to put my foot down. I explain we won't be changing this again unless we get customer feedback to validate these changes. And if we get it wrong, they'll tell us, and at least we'll fail fast. This style does mean more work for the most part, but ultimately it means that the team and the product run smoother as everybody is on the same page, and it pays dividends in the long run.
Cool. Once you've got your team relationships and dynamics sorted, what could be next? Focus on the voice of the customer or the customer focus. You'd think this would be up there as number one, considering we're at a UX conference and that's pretty much what the job entitles. However, we genuinely believe that without a solid foundation and a well-working product team, the most thought out and tested designs won't necessarily make it to the table. Once you've set up the previous two, you can harness these things regularly when you reach those bumps in the roads, when you most likely will. It always happens. Bringing the customer's wants, needs and goals front and center sounds like it would be the easy part, as it's built into the job description of likely everyone included in product delivery. And let's face it, that's why we're all at UXNZ. But like everything, theory and reality very rarely align, and even with the best intentions, it's so easy to lose the customer voice when everyone is juggling different strategies, deadlines and targets. This is why we believe everyone in the team should always have access to customer feedback, whether this is through dashboards, being involved in the user testing, or just reading the reports. A key part of keeping the voice of the customer front and center on your journey is literally keeping it front and center. Keep everyone in the loop, whether you think they should see it or not. The team having the ability to sense check how the product is tracking keeps the project grounded and feeling real. When the team build a new component or feature, they get to see the feedback and tie it to real people rather than being kept in the dark. This is also a big step in securing that stakeholder buy-in from earlier on. Stakeholders may agree or disagree with you all the time. Everyone probably knows that if you're a UX designer. But keeping them in the loop of how the product is tracking with users will also allow you to push for those bigger changes that they may not have been on board with at the beginning. Key stakeholders will be more receptive once they start to see the results. Maybe a struggle to get that ball rolling initially, depending on what fields you're in. But if you keep bringing it back to the customer feedback, you'll have a lot easier time. And having that feedback feel tangible, real, and entirely visible allows everyone to work with facts and insights rather than making assumptions that they think are best for the product. One way we tackled this challenge was to set up weekly working groups with all key stakeholders where we'd go over any past problems or feedback that had popped up in the past week. This allowed us to be completely transparent and open with each other when faced with challenges or just to share accomplishments as a team.
So this brings us to our close. And with the principles that we've covered, we believe that we've created a product that's set up to continuously grow, adapt and improve while surfacing our customers' wants, needs and pain points loud and clear. We've faced lots of challenges, made tons of mistakes, taken risks and leaned into many difficult conversations. But through this process, we're confident we've built something that's in line with what our customers actually need and is set up to welcome change as they do. So to recap, and if you've all just zoned out and not listened to anything at all, that's fine. Here are 3 things that you need to remember. Firstly, before you do anything, build trust-based relationships with your team and stakeholders by getting to the heart of what matters to them and how they want to show up for the customer. Lead by example and don't be afraid of the difficult conversations. These are critical so that when the going gets tough, you can lean into each other's worlds and really empathise with each other. Secondly, cultivate psychological safety and a flat hierarchy by setting the scene and fostering the behaviours that you value for growth. And lastly, build a framework that regularly surfaces customer feedback and never assume that you are all marching to the beat of the same drum, because you absolutely won't be, and true alignment comes from continuous communication. And the rest will fall into place. Thank you.